Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Van Vark, and I am a small business owner. Thank you for joining us this morning. I am very excited about talking to this young lady because I think she's going to be a wealth of information when it comes to the tourism industry. In addition to, she's a friend and a sorority sister. So, I was really excited about the possibility of having this conversation because I watched an episode on CNN where they talked about tourism in Italy, and it occurred to me we will probably have some of the similar challenges. So, without further ado, I want to bring Connie Kinnard on board. Let's see. Oh, wait, hold on. Come on in. I think she was already there, actually. See, I didn't realize you were already there.
I'm here.
I am excited to talk to you because, Miami is a lot of our income comes from the tourism industry. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sure several of us are very concerned about what's in the works in that realm. I'll start by asking you, who are you and what do you do?
Thank you. So first, thank you, Stephanie, for having me on this morning. First day in a while, I was able to put on some makeup and comb my hair. So thank you for that. Yes, I work for the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. And in particular, I work with our multicultural tourism and development. But overall, the GMCVB, as we call it, is about tourism. We are the marketing agency for Miami-Dade when it comes to tourism. We help to bring conventions to the city, big events, working with some of our small businesses in tourism. So, it's about community economic development. And as you mentioned, tourism really is the number one industry. So it brings about a lot of jobs and resources really to the county when people come here to visit.
Now, how have you of course, over the last month, the hospitality industries, when you look at the hotels, the restaurants, the spas, all of those types of industries, they've been the hardest hit. We are still under a stay-at-home order with regards to those kinds of industries, attractions, events, things of that nature.
Right.
What conversations are you having now to understand, get your mind around what that is and how to rectify those problems in the future? How to save us from this.
Wow, that's a huge question.
We need a savior.
Yeah. I think honestly, with everything, this is an evolving situation, and it's a situation a bit different from what we've experienced, as a world, but even as an area. Of course, we're accustomed to the hurricane and a hurricane season, and how that can affect tourism as well. This is different, and what we tried to do, at least initially, and I'm sure we'll talk about some other things, is to try to affect things where we could as a tourism agency and a resource. And one of the first things that we did was got with the restaurants, because if there's a restaurant, typically they can adapt to either take out or take out or carry out or pick up. And so one of the first things that we did is develop what's called the Miami Eats program, which is just a conduit, a way of restaurants, all restaurants, not just our partners. This is a collective effort. So it wasn't just about GMCVB partners on this. It's about everybody. Anybody that could do takeout and delivery. We immediately started to channel them, put them in the system, and start getting that link out so people could really utilize restaurants, and we help push that. So I mentioned that as one of our first initiatives because what we're trying to do and have done is just assess the needs of each area. We have some things online to help our first responders. We have areas on our website that really talk about grants, relief, and all those things. Yes, in the hospitality industry, you'll see things how to help restaurants. FIU has a great program that's grants to restaurants. And so you'll see a lot about that. But you'll also see a lot about just general business. because
Mm-hmm.
this is tourism, this is business, this is everything. So, what we've tried to do is to be effective where we can. We're researching and reaching out to our partners, seeing
Mm-hmm.
what's needed. We even hosted a mindfulness seminar, a webinar last week to some of our arts partners. So there's a lot of levels to this, and so those are some of the initial things that we're doing.
So are you reaching out to other countries? As I mentioned, Italy, I'm pretty sure France is having some challenges. Many of the islands who don't seem to be as hard hit as we are, but they've had to close their borders to ensure that. Are you having conversations with them as well right now as to some of the things that they're doing that you might be able to implement?
Absolutely. So I would say our first point of touching base to see kind of what everybody's doing, it basically are our domestic partners, counterparts,
Okay.
because, we have to kind of adapt now, of course, based upon everything that's going on. So we have studied all of CVBs all across the country just to
Yeah.
kind of get a feel on what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, of course, is unique because we're a strong international destination. So we
Mm-hmm.
have great camaraderie and interaction and fellowship with our people from New York and DC
Mm-hmm.
and some of those other places that are also international as well. So we do check and see kind of what's going on in the industry. As
Mm-hmm.
far as international, we have international representation as well. We partner with the umbrella organization for destination management companies called
Mm-hmm.
Destinations International, which helps
Okay.
us keep up as to what's going on in the overall industry. And honestly, we use a lot of that to help make decisions. But
Okay.
these decisions are fluid because things are constantly changing. But to your question, we are engaged and in tune and monitoring what's happening domestically and internationally.
Well, you mentioned Destination International.
Yes.
What's the outlook around the world? We're still sort of in this pandemic. People are in various stages of the stay-at-home order. What's sort of a global impression of how we get back to normal in a tourism industry? What are those conversations like?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. There's an optimistic reality to,
Exactly.
to all this. And I think that, I think from a tourism industry, just the general nature of it, there is optimism with everything that we do. Uh, you know, we as Miami and other cities are looking at their destination and hoping that people will come and selling their attractions and all of that good stuff. So there is optimism that, of course, things will turn, and we feel that they will in time.
Right.
The reality is that, as it does turn and things do change, there will be requirements. I don't want to use the word restrictions, but
Mhm.
restrictions, if you will, and just honestly a different way of doing things when it comes to travel.
Absolutely.
And so, how that will affect us, some of it is to be determined. Some of it we'll know just like the world when there's a vaccine available.
Mhm.
There's going to be a different mindset with travel.
Absolutely.
As far as Miami, we have to really look at the bigger picture because we are international. We are the cruise capital of the world. Um, and
Absolutely.
so when the cruise lines are affected, the Miami core business is affected as well.
Mhm.
When
Absolutely.
when international travel is slowed down or stopped, well, it affects Miami because our airport is one of the largest hubs as far as international travel as well.
Right.
Um, we typically, people drive here, we'll drive to
Mhm.
Miami, but typically, dry market is not probably the first thing that we would market if everything were normal, quote, quote. But
Right. Right.
this is an opportunity for us, for everybody, but us as a marketing agency, honestly, to look at how we market. And we're going to have to change
Mhm.
some of that based upon what's going on right now. So, um, optimistic, but the reality is people will have to feel comfortable traveling again.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
some of that will be monitoring the various events that happen nationally,
Mhm.
and just to see how that looks. You and I, we were talking a little bit earlier about conventions and
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Will a person get on a plane at this point and be willing to cross borders without fully understanding what that means in terms of their health? Um,
sure.
which brings me to the hotels. As you know, when this broke earlier in March, I just remember watching the news and our county mayor sort of saying all all hotels are closed. This was a Thursday; they were supposed to be closed by Monday. So, of course, that left many of the hoteliers trying to figure out what were they going to do, since everything, all of their audience, all of their money was now walking back, going back home.
Right.
But I've also been intrigued by some of them have been able to do some pretty interesting things. They've been able to pivot. I think about the Dunn's Josephine Hotel here in Overtown. They've been able to open their doors to the homeless trust and allow some people in the homeless community to stay there. I think there have been some hotels on your website that are serving essential workers, essential individuals who may be in town. So I find that interesting. Were those ideas that sort of came from the GMCVB, or were they ideas the hoteliers thought of and now you're able to bottle and maybe redistribute to other industries, hospitality industries as well?
Right. I think the thing about this situation and any other situations of adversity, if you will, um, creativity rises, right?
That's true.
Creativity rises. It's a survival tactic. You have
That's
to,
true.
during these times, to survive. You've got to create and figure out how to keep things going. And that's one of the things. You mentioned two wonderful hotels in one of our heritage neighborhoods in historic Overtown. That's their idea. I mean, hopefully,
Right.
the things that we're doing are layering into everything that people are, as far as the industry, are thinking about doing.
Mhm.
In talking to both of them, the GMCVB is very helpful to them in many ways.
Good.
But early on, I talked to Kristen, and she mentioned that Duns Josephine was going to be a part of helping our vulnerable population, which I
Mhm.
thought was awesome. You
I
know,
did agree.
yeah, and we
I did.
provided a few things for her to kind of help with that, but that's that creativity that we need, and
Okay.
Copper Door as well.
Yes,
They, of
absolutely.
course, in addition to being a hotel, a boutique hotel, bed and breakfast type, their culinary experience is awesome.
Mhm. Mhm.
They are doing, I see where they're doing a Mother's Day special this weekend. So
Yeah.
you can go by there, and that's not a traditional restaurant. However, they're utilizing their new space. I believe it's called Rosie's, to be creative and pick up and delivery for food.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so this is, and those are just two examples. There are examples all over of people being creative, and
Mhm.
so this. I talked about optimism and reality.
Mhm.
The optimism is seeing some partners like those and others that are doing things like that to just kind of keep it going, and prayerfully can keep everything going until we get past this curve. And we all say past this curve. Well, we're not sure what that curve is, but when
Right.
people start feeling a little bit more comfortable,
Mhm.
and when some of those sanitation practices are in place, and when we
Absolutely.
get a vaccine.
Absolutely. Which is a good conversation about um, are is the GMCVB at the table when we're having conversations, when our elected officials are having conversations around the stay-at-home order, and are there conversations about um, what has to happen? You mentioned sanitation and cleaning,
Mhm.
a hotel. What types of marketing has to occur to really make people feel safe and willing to put their monies back into vacation in Miami? Are those conversations had, and are you at the table?
Absolutely, absolutely. In particular, and I'll do a shout out to Bill Talbert, our president, and others, but he is on along with other team members, but just he is on several of those committees that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Looking at the reopening plan, looking at the timeline, looking at all the various aspects of those, how hotels, you know, beaches and all that. We do play a part
Mhm.
in this aspect because tourism is such a big piece that there are factors that have to be considered. I think that first and foremost, it is the safety plan, and how we do all this. But from an economic driver, yes, we want to reopen when it makes sense and how it makes sense to do it most safely for people, which
Right.
is the number one concern and focus for this. Tourism is great, and that's what we want, and we want it back, but it has to come back
It's
as
smart.
smart and as methodically as possible. My mom used to tell me this, and we would talk, and she would talk about parenting, and she would say,
Mhm.
maybe, some of those times when she may have messed up, parents
Mhm.
mess up too. And if
Absolutely.
she had to apologize to me, she would tell me, she said, Connie, only thing I can say is this: I've never been a parent before. This is my first opportunity. And she would remind me that she didn't always get it right. So
Right.
I say in this situation that we are in is the first time. I know it sounds for even the
Mhm.
governmental officials. We've had other things, but the dynamics of this is different. So everything may not look quite right, or
Mhm.
sound quite
Mhm.
right, but we'll have to remember
Trial and
that this hasn't happened before. So everybody is fixing the bicycle while they're still riding it.
Right, exactly, exactly. But it makes me ponder a little bit. We've talked about emergency plans on this show. For those of us in the for-profit world, I don't think we've taken the emergency plan. We've taken it seriously in consideration of hurricanes.
Yeah.
Um, as you mentioned, this is completely different, and I think many of us are going to think a little differently. But also, as you mentioned, creativity sets
Yeah.
in. People are pivoting, and they're creating some other opportunities for themselves. When I think about the GMCVB, I'm wondering, what does an emergency plan look like for the GMCVB? Having to be in situations where, I remember 9/11 affected tourism. We've had some
Mhm.
cruise ship situations that's affected tourism.
Right.
Now the pandemic, the hurricanes, which are irregular around here. Are your conversations different about what that emergency plan could look like for you and your members
Mhm.
and the hospitality industries?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say just from a tactical and just a basic first thing, as you know, from a hotel standpoint and restaurants as well, a lot of people just were laid off, furloughed,
Right.
let go,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
situations like that. From the bureau standpoint, we had a staff percentage cut, salary cut. All of our salaries were cut. So just from a
Absolutely.
basic, okay, we're gonna need cash to
Right. Exactly.
to
Exactly.
figure out how we can put back into programming, because any revenues and the bureau's revenue comes from some of the taxes when people spend the night, and some in
Mhm.
restaurant. Any of
Mhm.
that revenue for March, April, May is gone. And
Right.
then looking ahead, it's going to be low for these future
Right.
months because people are not going to, like you say,
Moving
it's
in
going
the
to
same
be
way. Yeah.
available for people travel. So just
Mhm.
from a basic standpoint, our staff, we all took salary cuts. We, some of our contract workers, we had to let them go. We had
Mhm.
to cut the fat, as they say, just from the beginning. And
Okay.
that's something that our leadership felt necessary to do, so we could also be able to put some of that money back into a recovery plan. So
Right.
first and
Okay.
foremost, I'll say that we are in regular conversations, and meetings and things about really looking at. We had a marketing plan.
Mhm.
We
You
nixed
can't
it.
do that now.
It's mixed. It's mixed. But what we have done, we've looked at it and we said, okay, what are the things that we have to do for this, for the rest of our fiscal year? But then what are
Mhm.
the things that we must do as part of looking at recovery? And so we have a program that is evolving, but the program that you'll hear about is called Miami Shines.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a marketing recovery program, if you will, but it'll have different levels, working with restaurants and businesses and all those things to help market, help promote, help assist where we can, a type of recovery program as we move into the summer,
Okay.
into the fall. So to your question, yes, we're looking at things totally different. We're looking at our finances totally different. And we're just we're going to be flexible and we're going to pivot as this thing unfolds.
As most of us have had to do as well.
Yeah.
We talked briefly right before. One of my favorite things that the GMCVB does is temptation programs.
Right.
I really, quite frankly, thought it was a brilliant idea, not only because it was around the hospitality industry, but it really incentivized those locals to experience and spend money in
Right.
hospitality industries that you may not have done so, because you have these amazing promotions. So my favorites, if I could throw something out, were Spa Month.
Right.
Miami Spice, which is the food month, where you can go to any restaurant for $30 and almost anywhere.
Right.
A 3 to 5 course meal. I believe we had Museums Month. We had Attractions Month. Those obviously can't happen the same way and in the same and even if we are able to get to that point where we feel a little safer, we have a vaccine, I believe that will have to be adapted. What are you looking at right now in ways of continuing to support those industries when we're back from the stay-at-home order, and how do you slowly get back to a norm in that
Right. Right. So you're right. One of the things as we go into the summer season, we would go into these Miami Spice Spa, and you're right. Everybody loves it. Right. This started out as a way to help the restaurants in typically what is a slower time. There's really no slow times in Miami, but a slower time. But it has become something so the locals can enjoy some restaurants that they typically wouldn't go to. It's a great thing for tourists as well. So to your point, those won't be rolled out in the same format and fashion as before. Not because there's not an interest, because the hotels, restaurants love the program. But the reality is that with some of the travel and some of the restrictions on hotels and restaurants and entities, it's going to be a little different. But there will be some version format under the Miami Shines, which is the umbrella name, if you will, that you might hear of Miami Spice 2.0. Miami Spice revised, Miami Spice or whatever. They'll be. We'll do our best to have something that will help push economics for the restaurants during that time. So don't count it out, but that's one of the things that we have actually on the table now, and creativity. The good thing is that during this time, we will continue pushing our takeout and delivery piece, even during the Miami Spice times, because there'll be some restaurants that will probably be still doing takeout and delivery. There'll be others that will be open, half of the size of the restaurant. I think we're going to see a whole bunch of different levels. So we're going to push all those dynamics.
Okay.
Yeah.
You and I were just talking very briefly about our sorority had scheduled a convention in July, not in Miami. It's in another city. There was sort of quite a period of time where we weren't really sure if it was going to happen or not. Talk a little bit about what probably had to go into the decision to postpone an event of that size, because this was going to be huge. It was a week-long event. I think we were projecting 5,000 people from around the country or more. What conversations, what has to happen for those for you to make that decision to say, no, we won't do this
Sure, sure.
during this time.
Right, right. So, one of the things, because we are a big leisure and convention market, our
Mhm.
team has been working, our convention sales team of the GMCVB has been working behind the scenes for conventions that were booked in Miami for like
Mhm.
March, April, May,
Mhm.
June, because, again, we don't know the travel. A lot of those conventions, most of those conventions had to be, they either canceled or postponed, right?
Mhm.
Our
Mhm.
goal is so that they don't cancel Miami totally. We just need to help them find new dates, either in the
Right.
fall or next year or the following year. And so our
Okay.
team immediately when we got into this area in March, has been working with all the conventions that are booked
Mhm.
here, to get them to find new dates and work with the
Mhm.
hotels. So there's a lot of behind the scenes works that you don't see. But in
Mhm.
order to keep these conventions here, we've been doing it. You mentioned Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, which was scheduled for Philly, and they did send a letter about that. Well, the deal
Mhm.
is, before a lot of these conventions can really publicly say what they're going to do, they need to work out behind the scenes the
Right.
whole contract and all that stuff. So
Absolutely.
that's what's happening even now with us here in Miami.
Mhm.
And that's what's happening all over. So if you're part of, a group or organization and you haven't heard anything and you're wondering, well, why haven't they updated us? Well, part of it is that behind the scenes, there's a lot of moving parts because you have to remember everybody is doing the same thing. Everybody's canceling and wanting to move to new dates.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And
that's
we've had to do that here too.
that.
There were several concerts that were big events. I believe we, had some film festivals that had
Yeah.
to do the
Yeah,
same
well,
thing.
yeah. A couple of the groups that our department works with, American Black Film Festival, they were
Mhm.
scheduled for June. They're slated for October now. Tennessee State University, the alumni convention now will be in 2022. The Association of African American Museums
Mhm.
will now be in,
Right.
right,
Right.
2021, and so there are others working as well. But Miami Carnival, our big Caribbean festival
Yes.
it tentatively will take place in October.
Yes.
We're monitoring that, but as of right now, it's a go,
Okay.
and it could be a good opportunity at that point to see how travel is going to be in October.
Okay. On a side, I noticed you said Tennessee State. Is there a reason why they're coming here?
I mean, this
Is it personal, maybe?
when I first got here, one of the things that Bill
Mhm.
Talbot, told me is like, okay, it's sales. It's about sales and convention, and so you use your own context. You play to your own strengths.
Exactly. Exactly. For those of you who don't know, she is from Nashville, Tennessee, and attended Tennessee State, correct?
That's right. That's right.
um, I am intrigued also about. Actually, I'm thinking. Wait, I got my little thing here. Dog, I had a thing in my head. I'm losing my mind. How do we re-energize tourism in Miami? Later, um, once this is all over, we have a vaccine in place.
Mhm.
There's going to have to be a hard and fast marketing strategy to really re-energize not just trust, but just it's time to come back to sun and fun.
Right.
What is that conversation or that message? Or do we sort of rely on the fact that we are sun and fun?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. Um, the good thing about there's a lot of good things about Miami, right?
Right.
People, first I'll talk outside, then I'll talk about us as a community.
Mhm.
When people have cabin fever and they want to get out, they want to come to some place that makes them feel good.
Mhm.
And, scientifically, we know that the sun and being in the sun, sunshine,
That's
uh,
great. I agree.
pretty destinations and backgrounds make you feel, you're getting your vitamin D from the sun. makes you feel better.
Right.
So I think that there is an energy from those traveling in that Miami can bring. There are a lot of destinations that can do that internationally, but from a
Mhm.
domestic point, the look of Miami is very unique. So I think
Right.
that we will we will be one of the areas that people will want to come to. Thus,
Mhm.
if you think about our recovery campaign name, Miami Shines,
Right.
it kind of lends to that whole vibe, that warmth,
Right.
that feeling. The second piece to that is that, I still feel that our culture, our community, and our heritage is a big piece of our tourism
That's
package. I
positive.
mean,
Yeah.
that's what we live. That's what our department, what I do. That's what we live and breathe. And I
Mhm.
also think that there's a aspect of that with our sun and fun, meshing those together, that can
Mhm.
really energize the tourism piece back again at the, as this thing ramps up.
Right.
Um, from a community standpoint, I think that the successes, and this is so evolving, but I think that I have seen such energy from a lot of our businesses already.
Mhm.
We
I
talked
agree.
about too, Little Greenhouse,
Mhm.
Jackson Soul Food, several of the businesses in Little Havana,
Right.
things going on in Little Haiti. There are food drives in every community. Miami Gardens, keeping up with Mayor Gilbert, doing a lot. And I'm
Mhm.
saying all this to say, you see the love and connectivity of the people.
Mhm.
You
Absolutely.
see the want for people to be good. Are you
Right.
okay? Do you have enough
Right.
food? You know, I, we're trying to
I can
we
support.
tip you support, and I
Mhm.
say that I don't think that's going to really go away. I think
Okay.
that what we have to do as a people, what we have to do with the GMCVB, we have to keep checking in with folks and making sure how can we
Mhm.
be helpful. You
Right.
doing conversations like this, is great because it can help bring exposure to some things. Hopefully,
Right.
somebody, maybe something I've said that we've talked about,
Right.
spark somebody to do
Right.
something. Hopefully, you'll do other businesses to keep. So I think that continuing this, I don't think it's going to go away. We just got to
Okay.
keep it right optimistic.
Now, you talked about, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, that the VP of the multicultural department, prior to the pandemic, there had been a lot of focus on, and I've actually been included in conversations around how to really, people do think sun and fun Miami, but there's a culture here, there's a diversity here
Right.
that really can be very attractive when you think
Mhm.
about foods and the identity and the music and the
Right.
personality of these different communities. Um, are you thinking strategically about, um, because it seems like you're very much in touch with these businesses. Are you thinking
Mhm.
strategically around ways to sort of keep those businesses vibrant and alive and able to come back after this? And some conversations you may be having with some businesses who might not be able to make it to the end of this situation.
Yeah, yeah. So, we are doing what we can do in the parameters of our general mission, which is marketing,
Mhm.
tourism, those type things. What we do is we also have a program that's our tourism business enhancement program, where we're really more in touch with businesses on that level probably than other bureaus, because that's
Mhm.
really just a part of our platform. It's almost like an economic development piece where we're very much in tune with them. So how are
Right.
we helpful? It's honestly understanding the needs and trying to create programming and
Mhm.
initiatives that help support those throughout, not just really during this time, but throughout.
Mhm.
The other
Mhm.
piece is that being a conduit for information, because we're not a funding source like a
Mhm.
chamber or like a
Mhm.
beacon council or those type entities, or SBA.
Right.
That's not necessarily what we do. But what we do is help provide that information to the businesses as well. I
Right.
was literally sending people Facebook messages. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Like, do you know this? Like, getting
I'm your
emails.
favorite friend. That's true, y'all.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's
Because
get emails.
because because while we may not be able to be like a loan or a grant entity, we can help as soon as because we hear a lot, and a lot of this stuff is, we get it quickly, and so we try to quickly get it out to our partners. During our art season, we actually do give out sponsorships for our Art of Black Miami program. And
Okay.
depending on how everything rolls out, our plan is to still do that. We've got to monitor everything, but where we can help from a financial standpoint, we will. But
Okay.
when we can't help from that, we're a conduit, a resource, give me a call. How do I make that connection? Hey, I need some bags. Can you help me with that?
Right. Exactly.
Whatever level.
Okay. There will be some businesses, unfortunately, that might not make it to the other side of this.
Right.
Have you had some conversations around the impact you think that will have on our economy and the tourism space? Not even just the travel, but just the survival of some of the businesses that have been so impactful in this.
Yeah. I can't give you a economic number on that, but what I will just tell you from just the heart of Miami, it wouldn't be good. It's not a good thing. We don't want businesses. We want businesses to make it, right? And if they don't make it, it will affect a neighborhood's I guess, ability to want to bring in those visitors and tourists. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it is. Visitors, those culture seekers, as we call them, are looking for those unique experiences.
Absolutely.
And a lot of those unique experiences are smaller businesses, mom and pop businesses in our neighborhoods. So it would affect what we're doing. And so,
especially in culture communities as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we really, really want those businesses to succeed, and just every loan grant I've been trying to send it out. I know our department, our committee chair Carol Ann Taylor has been on working with a lot of businesses, trying to get the word out, being helpful. Eric Knowles with the Miami-Dade Chamber, who was on our board as well. The Hispanic Chamber has a lot out there as well. So we're trying to get the word out. But to your point, it would affect what we do. So we're just hopeful that as many businesses can make it through this, we'll make it through this.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I do, before we leave, want to ask you, how can we find you?
Sure. If anybody wants to email me, my email is Connie, CONNIE, at GMCVB.com. That's Connie at GMCVB.com. And the acronyms just are the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, if you get confused on those. So feel free to email me. Of course, our website is miamiandbeaches.com or GMCVB.com, takes you to the same place. And if you go to our website, you can see all of those programs and initiatives that we talked about earlier, as well as our multicultural tourism offerings as well. Would love to hear from anybody.
Thank you so much. And as soon as you get those temptation programs going again, let me know. I am a huge fan.
I will. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. That was a wealth of information regarding the tourism industry. I know I actually was very excited to hear a lot of that information because I am in one of those culture communities that relies very heavily on those opportunities. So anything that we need to know to really stay afloat during this time so that we're able to capitalize on that at a later time is wonderful. Tomorrow, join us at 4:00 tomorrow. Actually, we'll be here at 4:00 tomorrow talking to Joseph Stimpian. Did I say that right? He is, I'm sorry, I was looking at my husband. That's his personal trainer. He's a franchisee with Legacy Fit. I am super excited to learn more about the fitness industry. They were one of the first to kind of hop out on that online platform and really make it benefit them. And so I want to know from him how it's working and how we might be able to follow suit. So again, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we will see you again. Thank you and have a great day.